guys, welcome back to A Vintage Halloween. So today I thought I would share some spooky stories. I actually shared these on Instagram last October. It was the week of Halloween last year, but I thought it'd be fun to get them up on YouTube because I know a lot of you prefer YouTube as your main source of hanging out with me and Toby and that type of thing. If you hear Toby, he is sitting here right at my feet. If you hear any like snarfing sound, you know, that's him down there. Anyway, so the first story actually happened when I was exploring an old hotel in Galveston, Texas. So this was around, I think 2014, 2013, I think 2014. And my mom and I had gone to Galveston just for the weekend, and we decided to stay in a really beautiful old hotel called the Galvez, Galvez, I think, Galvez. And this was built of the early 1900s. Like, this is like beautiful Spanish style. Like, it's gorgeous. Like, it's so old. I think it like, I don't know. It's hosted like a lot of famous people. Like, it's just been like, it's just a really beautiful hotel to stay in. So it's also very haunted. So, I stayed there many times before and nothing's happened. Like, it's just been a beautiful place. And it's like sort of right across from the ocean. So you have the hotel and then you have like the street and then you have the ocean on either side. So like there's beautiful things and you can drive like to the shops and everything that's close by. So it's a good place to be in Galveston if you're just going to be there for like a weekend or something. So, so the ghost story supposedly is someone, I think it was like a lady who was pining for her love that was lost at sea, and like, I don't know if she like killed herself or what the story is. I need to refresh my memory on that. But that was sort of like the rumor sort of circulating around the hotel. And so one afternoon, it was like a sunny day. I decided, my mom was like taking a nap. It was like the middle afternoon in our room. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go up to the 5th floor because that's where it's supposed to be haunted. I'm going to go up there by myself and see what I can, you know, discover up there. See if I have any like spooky experiences up there. I'm just going to go up there and check it out. So I get off the elevator and I'm like just looking around, and it definitely had like a different vibe. Like the energy was different on the floor. And immediately I heard someone whisper in my ear, Laura. Like they whispered my name. Toby's making squeaks. And I was like, what the hell? Like I thought that, you know, maybe that was just like a sound the elevator was making. Like it was making like a weird, like sort of sound. And somehow, like, since I knew the floor was haunted, I interpreted it as someone saying my name. That's what I just went with. And so I walked up and down the hallway. I definitely felt a sense of like of being watched. Like there was someone right behind me. The entire time I walked the hall, I took photographs. I did everything. Like nothing was there. I didn't experience anything else. And when I came back to the elevator, I pushed the button and I was waiting to go back down. I heard it again, Laura, in my ear. Again, to not freak myself up, I just chalked it up to, it must be some sound the elevator's making, like that's making me think it's someone saying my name. Like I'm just gonna ignore it. So I went back down to the hotel room. I told my mom, like, I swear to God, I heard someone say my name in my ear. She's like, what? Like, that's crazy. And so anyway, so that's the only thing that happened while we were staying there. And I didn't think anything of it for like years and years. And then, so fast forward to 2017, I put on a solo art show. So I've been an artist for like years and years. And I tried to go, you know, full-time as an artist twice. And so the last time I did it was 2017, and I was trying to do abstract art. So I had a solo art show at this place in Burnham that had like, you know, so a gallery setting, and I just had a bunch of my work up there. So my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, flew down with her husband, and then my cousins, her daughter Linda, and then Linda's daughter Sierra, who's my age, and Sierra's daughter Della, who I think was like 8 at the time. And so they are all psychic as hell. Like that whole side of the family, I think that's like where we get it from, like where I've gotten it from. That whole side of the family, the German side of our family, is super psychic. So anyway, somehow we got to talking about like ghost stories or whatnot. And at the time, this is just a backstory. At the time, Sierra, was my cousin who's my age, was working in Washington State. I think she was like managing like a business complex or something that had a lot of elevators. Like she worked with elevators a lot. Like she was familiar with like having to get them repaired. Like, so anyway, so I tell her my story about the Galvez and hearing someone whisper my name. And she looks at me and she's like, okay, you know, I work with elevators. Okay. And you know, they don't whisper your name. She's like, I'm pretty sure someone was there and they said your name. And I was like, hell, you're right. They whispered my name. it's just so creepy. So that was the first time I ever really heard anything like audibly. If you've seen my video a couple videos back about my Maine experience, I heard a lot of people talking there. That was also in 2017. So this is like the same year I was talking to Sierra about this, but it was creepy. It was like creepy as hell. You can hear Toby snoring. He was just riveted with the story. So yeah, so that was like an interesting experience. Another hotel experience I had, this is another one I shared last October, was at the Gage Hotel. And the Gage Hotel is in Marathon, Texas. It's like sort of the halfway point between Houston and El Paso. And it's like right at like sort of like the western part of Texas where that's opening up. I can't remember the name of the shoot, it went out of my head. What is the park, the national park that's there? I'll think of it. Big Bend, that's it. So it was like a huge, like in the like 1920s, like early 1900s, it was like a huge place where like businessmen would come through, like ranchers, that type of thing. So Alfred Gage was this businessman who built this, you know, beautiful brick hotel like back in the day. And so the hotel is like the main hotel. It's like all historic, and then it has like these sort of like motel set up rooms next to it with like a pool that are new but made to look old to go with the hotel, just like to house more people. And so in 2010, I was working for the Torch Collection, which is like the world's biggest collection of Texana, which has now become the Bryan Museum, and that's in Galveston. And so my boss, JP Bryan, owns the whole collection, and he is Stephen F. Austin's sister's direct descendant. Like he's like hardcore Texas, so he's like the nicest man alive. So I loved working for him. So I was the curator of his collection back in 2010 when this occurred, and he wanted me to drive to El Paso in his car to pick up this collection that he'd purchased. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, and I hate driving road trips myself, so I had my mom come with me. I'm like, Mom, do you want to come with me to El Paso? She's like, hell yeah, I love to drive. So she loves driving. She's like a double Gemini Sagittarius rising. Like she loves going places, exploring, adventure. Like, so I'm like, this is perfect. Like we'll just go together and have fun and do this thing. So since JP owned the Gage Hotel, I think he bought it in like the 70s. Like it was falling apart, and he's a very much philanthropist, like humanitarian. Like he wants to help like enrich communities. He wants to help save historic architecture. He loves history. So he saw the Gage Hotel falling down, dilapidated. He's like, I can make this into a hotel again. Like we can restore this and make this something cool. So he restored it. It's gorgeous. Like I highly recommend staying there if y'all are ever in sort of the West Texas area. It's up by I think, where else is it by? I'll think of it. I'm blanking on the names, but it's Marathon, Texas. So anyway, so we got to stay there for free because it was JP owned it. And so I had to catalog the artwork that was in the hotel as well on the way to picking up the new collection. And I guess there's tons of ghost stories about it. At the time, I had no idea it was haunted. So I had no reason to think it was haunted. Like I had no inkling. Like we got in sort of around dusk. Like we met with the manager. She knew I was there. We had like, burgers in town. And then like there was a lot of like sort of stormy, like heat lightning in the sky. And like we just swam a little bit. And we were staying out, not in the main building, but in sort of like that motel, sort of like, I guess it set up like a hacienda. It's a very sort of Spanish style place, the style of it, but it's just like sort of motel rooms, like one next to the other. So we were out there in that area. And so my mom and I are sleeping, and it's the middle of the night, and all of a sudden I hear pacing at the foot of my bed. It's like, like you can hear like footsteps just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth at the end of my bed. And I'm like, I open my eyes, I'm like, what the hell? And I'm hearing this sound in my room, and nothing is there. And I'm just like, but I felt the presence very strongly of a man, it's just that sort of like unresolved chaotic energy, like something is like really troubling them and they're trying to work it out and they're just pacing. And I was like, what the hell? Like, what do you want? Like, and it wasn't communicating with me. And normally I can just like, in my head sort of talk to things, but this one is just like working its own thing out, I guess. And so all of a sudden we hear boom, like a huge like crash. And it's just like, it was coming from the room, and it was like, it sounded like, if you go into a restaurant and like, those people that can rip a tablecloth off without smashing everything on the table, but this one smashed everything. That's what it sounded like. Like something fell, like there was a huge like kerfuffle, like it was a huge thing. Anyway, so that woke my mother up, and she was like, what the hell? So we turned the light on, and nothing had been moved. Nothing had been moved in the room. And I'm like, okay, what was that? Like, where did that sound come from? Like, I don't know what just happened. So anyway, so the presence sort of left. I didn't feel anything, but I didn't feel he was still there. And we just went back to bed. And the next morning I asked them, I looked around, I said, like, was there an accident in the street? Like, we heard the sound. Nothing happened. There was nothing in the street. Nothing fell. No tree limb fell. Like, there was no, like, reason for that sound. That big crash we heard, there was no reason whatsoever. And it sounded like it was coming from inside the room. And so I was just like, I don't even know what to think about this. Like, it was just so creepy, and just like, and just having someone, like, hearing someone walk at the foot of your bed and you can't see anything, like, that is just creepy. That's happened to me like one more time, which I'll share after this experience because there's another part to it. But it's just creepy, like hearing disembodied sounds of walking and no one's there. Like, it's just creepy. So anyway, so we left the hotel, we went to El Paso, had a great time. We like met the owner of the collection, who was wonderful, and we got the collection, packed it up. It was a lot of drawings. We took it back in the car, came back, and we stayed at the Gage Hotel on the way back. And this time we stayed in the hotel. And I did wake up in the middle of the night and I sensed the same man in my room, but like that I was being watched more, but like it wasn't like, you know, like an evil presence of any kind. It was like just a man. And then later on last year, when I was researching to share the same story on Instagram, I discovered that there have been plenty of people that had the experience of being watched from their bed or hearing footsteps at the end of their bed. And I think like one psychic even thought that it was someone who had some issue with Alfred Gage, the original owner of the hotel, and was still like angry, or I don't know, but it was like weird. But anyway, so that was our experience at the Gage Hotel. And so the other time I heard disembodied footsteps was in the main cabin. If you go back a couple of videos, it's my experience in the main cabin. I heard footsteps downstairs and I thought it was an intruder. That was terrifying. Another time happened this past year. I was in my house. My house isn't haunted, but like I'm super psychic, so I guess I just experienced weird stuff. So I was like just like in my bed. I turned my lamp off and I was lying in bed for maybe 10 minutes, and then suddenly the lamp pops on by itself and I hear footsteps walking away from my nightstand out the door. And I was like, nope, not funny. Not funny. So I just, to make myself feel better, just in my head told myself that I hadn't turned the switch off all the way and it popped on by itself. And I was imagining the rest, but I heard footsteps. So that was just creepy. My next experience, this is the last one I'll share for this video, but these are just all I shared. I shared all these on Instagram last year. So if you're familiar with them, here they are again. I just wanted to put them on YouTube for posterity. They're still on Instagram, my saved stories. So this also happened around the same time period. This was maybe 2011, and I was still working for the museum, and Mr. Brian wanted me to go to San Antonio for an art opening at a museum. I think it was like Texas art or something like that. And so he is a member of a private club in San Antonio called The Argyle, and this is like an antebellum like southern mansion. It has the columns, like it has the whole 9 yards. And so it's like sort of like a member club. They have like a 5-star amazing restaurant, and like people who are members can stay. But it's not like a B&B or a hotel, like no one's there. So like you just have, like they leave the door open, you have the key of a room, they check you in, and you just are there, and no one next day is there, which was sort of a weird thing. But I guess it's just how they roll. So my mom and I, like I drove, like she came with me because, you know, I hate driving road trips. So I think we got there maybe around 8 p.m., had dinner. Right when I walked into the building, I'm like, this is haunted as hell. Like this is like, it had like a weird vibe. I felt like a lot of Civil War connections, like a lot of Civil War soldiers. I just felt like I was being watched, and there were a lot of people, and like they're all connected to the Civil War somehow. Like I just felt like Civil War, and there was nothing in the house that said anything about the Civil War. Like even the plaque on the front of the building I Googled says nothing about that. Like it says nothing about it. So there's no reason for me to think that. I just felt like in my mind's eye, since I don't see things, I just like feel them. Sometimes in my mind's eye, I can like picture things, and I felt like I saw people in uniform, men in uniform. Y'all. So our room is super creepy. So that first night we stayed in like it was a room with 2 twin beds, and like outside the window was like a flat roof, and I think it had like those like electrical boxes, like maybe like the AC unit, like that type of thing, like up on the roof. And like the room had oppressive feeling into it. And I was just like, if my mother had not been there, I would have fled. Like I wouldn't have stayed there if my mother hadn't been there. There's no way in hell I could have stayed there. I was so uncomfortable. I felt like someone was watching me. I felt like so freaked out. And I was like, well, I have to go to this event tomorrow. Like I'm representing like the collection. Like I have to like get sleep. So I just, got ready for bed, got in my bed and everything. My bed was right next to the window that overlooked that flat roof. And I just had like the worst, like turn the light off. It was just like the worst oppressive feeling that like there were a lot of people and they were all like watching us. And it was so creepy. So then, I've seen all the ghost shows, like, the whole theory about electromagnetic energy, like coming from, malfunctioning like ceiling fans, or, maybe the AC box outside had like that energy coming from it, and it can make you feel like you're being watched. So I'm like, maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's not paranormal. And then of course I remembered that the whole house felt that way. So anyway, so to test that theory, I was like, Mom, would you mind switching beds with me? So she switched beds with me. And of course, Mom, like being like the double Gemini Sagittarius, like she's so positive and just like super like, she's very calm. Like she knows when I'm stressed out. And so she's like super calm. Like, and so she was like, okay, no problem. And like, she's like, yeah, it did feel a little bit, weird. Like it was creepy. That bed had a different feel than the other bed. But she was like, yeah, it was fine. Like, 'cause, she's not like sensitive, but y'all, it was just so creepy. Like the whole thing was creepy. The next morning we woke up, like there was no one there. No hotel workers there, anyone there. I think we had like a continental breakfast or something like that. I just felt like there were soldiers everywhere. And then we went to like the event. It was fine. Like I went to the show. It was fine. And then I can't remember if we stayed there a second night. I think we went to the Gage Hotel, which is like a different hotel in San Antonio. But anyway, I didn't think about this at all. Like there's nothing online about ghost stories about this place. Like I didn't think about it for like years, like over a decade. So until last year when I was going to do these stories for Instagram, I'm like, I'm just going to research it and see if I can find anything online about ghost stories or anything. There are no ghost stories online about the Argyle at all. But it was used as like an artillery or something in the Civil War. And the owner fought in the Civil War. You can hear the thunder outside. Spooky, spooky. So it had all these connections with the Civil War. I think like the owner was an anti-secessionist. Like he didn't want Texas to secede from the Union. So he was like trying to give a speech like in front of the Gage Hotel. And like there was this group of dudes that were like hardcore like Confederates and like made him leave town, or like there's this whole story. I have all the links on Instagram if my saved stories from last year. But it was like wild, like all these wild connections to the Civil War that I just picked up that I didn't know. Like, and it was like really weird to have that validation that like my intuition was right. I don't know. But that was like one of the scariest times, because like to feel like there's so many people you can't see watching you, and like you can't go anywhere. Like you have to stay there and the house is like empty. So yeah, so those are just some creepy stories that I wanted to put here on YouTube for October. And I have many more, including some that happened to family members, which I'll share in another video. But yeah, thanks for joining me, guys. Sleep tight.